Hi and welcome to Steve Wraith's True Crime Podcast, and we've got a bit of a different guest today. I've got Nick Dunn, a fellow Northeasterner from Ashington Way. Many of you might have heard his story on James English's podcast, which he did last year. He's got a book out as well, which we're going to promote and talk about later. But welcome to the programme, Nick.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, great to have you on. And first of all, let's just talk a little bit about your upbringing, where you were born, where you were raised and what you ended up doing, Nick.
Well, I currently live in a northeastern town called Ashington, which I've spent the majority of my life. But my first early years of growing up, I lived in a smaller town called Linemouth. I lived there till a few years before I was 10. Then we moved to Ashington, and then a few years there. Then I moved to Bedlington. So I'm moving around a few northeastern towns. Spent quite a chunk of my life in Bedlington, going to school, meeting my friends who are friends today, and my parents went through a divorce, and then obviously moved back to Ashington while I was still at high school, so having to jump on the good old peasant wagon as a school kid, which was delightful. So it was kind of a way of playing truant. Oh, I missed my bus. Oh, unfortunately, I'll just go back to bed. As you do, kids, that's, what we did back then. I come from a hard-working family. My dad worked away. My mum was a carer. Had, I would say, a good upbringing. I wasn't a golden child. Get into trouble, but when you see the trouble that youngsters are getting into these days, makes what my trouble was doesn't even. It's not even on the same level. The delinquents, as you want to call them nowadays, are doing more criminal stuff than just chucking a few eggs at a bus or something and running away, or setting a little fire, and just a bit of excitement, what it was like when I was growing up. So, and obviously in like 20 odd years, maybe a bit more, I know time has changed in people's upbringings and can and cannot do and stuff like that, and everyone's nowadays so fixated on YouTube and Xboxes and PlayStations. We had Mega Drives and all that back in them days, so we spent quite a lot of time outside, and when them street lights came on, there was no mobile phones, I'll see you later. It was get your ass back home or you get braid, basically. So a good upbringing,
Happy childhood, basically, yeah, and no real trauma. Yeah, which is great. I mean, your progression through school, was it a positive one? Did you leave school with good results?
I wasn't a lover of school. I will put my hand on my heart and say I rebelled at school, getting suspended and stuff like that. It's just something I didn't enjoy, even though when I think back now in my 30s, you do have a great time. You're meeting friends, you're having a laugh. It's just, I preferred to not go to school, and whether it's had a negative effect in my life, maybe not, but I had a one-track mind, and that was to join the army.
What made the army an attractive option for you? Was it watching war films? Was it playing armies in the street with your mates on the streets of Northumberland? What was the main attraction?
Pretty much what you've just said there. Watching war films, playing armies down, making camps down the woods and stuff like that. Watching Arnold Schwarzenegger in films where he's just got an unlimited ammunition belt attached to his gun, and then obviously the Army be the best adverts. They were drawn my attention, not like the crap they put on the TV now. No one would look at the Army adverts now and go, "Oh, that looks interesting." It's totally garbage in my eyes. But yeah, they were the kind of stuff that drew me to joining the army, and obviously the chosen regiment that I wanted to join, I wanted to be a part of a very hard working, big reputation regiment, and that's why I chose the parachute regiment.
You weren't a scholar at school, but were you fit? Were you into your sport as a youngster?
Yeah, playing football in all weather. Finished school, quick cup of tea and a bowl of Frosties, put me full football gear out and meet the lads around the football pitch on the school grounds. And it didn't matter if it was raining, snowing, you'd be playing football. And they were like the best times in my life, because you'd literally play and you'd be on a team where you'd be getting hammered 10-0 or something, and then next minute someone will shout next goal wins and you'll score, and then you've won the game, even though it would be just 10-1, but that's what the rules were back then, you know. And it was great, and you don't see that often nowadays. You don't, and it's sad. It really is.
It was jumpers for goalposts, but I mean, I think as well. I think you and I are roughly the same age, I think, and it was. I think we ended up, you know, having some of our generation who would vandalise schools and smash windows and break into schools when we were playing football. And I think because of that, you ended up with more security around the schools. Fences got put up, so I think it became the next generation. It was more difficult for them to go and play football on the pitch because there was less grass areas. Or people were building on grass areas. So yeah, I agree massively. I mean, you know, every night, you know, until your mum was shouting you in, you were playing football. And sometimes on a Sunday, I remember after a Sunday dinner going out at 2:00 and you'd still be playing football at 10, you know. And sometimes it was games at 20 aside. And I can definitely remember those days where it was next goal the winner, and I scored a few of them.
But yeah, I like my fitness. When I was at school, I was on the cross country team. Playing football, playing sport. PE, I loved doing PE, playing quick cricket and stuff like that. But yeah, I was really into me running when I was younger, and I thought, well, it's a bit of a good level of fitness to then go and do my army training. Obviously, it's a bit of a mixture of both, a bit of strength, mental fitness, as well as physical fitness.
But tell us about that then. Obviously, you know, you said it was the bit of war films and playing soldiers, and then obviously the advertising campaign which drew you in. But you know, tell us about the process of joining, you know, the parachute regiment for you.
Well, obviously going through all the rigmarole at the careers office. I was 17 when I went through that, so I had to have my legal guardian, obviously, which was my mum. So obviously, when you've done your tests up in Edinburgh, or I think that's where I went. Basically, standing in the careers office, putting your hand on the Bible, looking at the Queen's photo, and saying basically pledging your allegiance to Queen and country, and it was a real proud moment. And then I was about to get shipped off to Catterick on my 18th birthday, but paperwork kind of got delayed, and I went and joined in April, so I was able to spend my 18th birthday out on the drink, not turning up at Catterick, because that would have been a massive wake-up call, going from a 17-year-old renegade to a swift young soldier in the blink of an eye. It was quite funny when I turned up at Catterick. I had my eyebrow pierced, my earring and a silver chain, and they looked at me and went, "What on earth are you?" I was like, "What?" You know, so naive and everything. And I'm not going to turn around and say training was easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's there to separate you from the best and the rest. And the parachute regiment training is renowned as being very hard and difficult. And it was something that I wanted to do. I had a few niggles, few setbacks, but I powered on through because I wanted the end goal, and I wanted to wear that maroon beret with a cap badge of the parachute regiment on top of my head. And every time I put that beret on, I felt a sense of pride. Going through training and the illustrious pay company test week, where you do a few different physical endurance exercises, 2 sometimes a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and it basically takes you to a new level of robustness, physical and mental capabilities to get to that next level and to pass pay company on the square, to get the maroon beret without the little green back, and there's such a sense of achievement. And then passing out on the parade square in front of all my family, and obviously when we were marching off to our Ride of the Valkyries tune, I was closest to the stand, so my parents could see me marching off, and it was another another stepping stone into being a parachute regiment soldier, and just showing another level of pride.
What was the hardest part? I mean, I've a while ago on my YouTube channel, I did used to have the P Company documentary up. I was one of these people who used to record lots of crime documentaries and army documentaries, and I always kept them on videotape. I then managed to transfer them over onto DVD, and then I loaded them onto YouTube. But it's copyrighted stuff, so I still have it. But it was probably one of my most viewed videos, and a lot of ex-paras were over the moon that I'd put it up, because some of them hadn't seen it, but it brought back a hell of a lot of memories for them. So what was the hardest part of P Company and the whole process for you?
Pay company, in a way, it's a very when I do it, it's relaxed. You're allowed to sit on your bed. You're eating a lot of carby foods because you need energy for endurance, and you can see a lot of people looking a bit nervous because that one exercise that you do could determine whether you'd be a paratrooper or not. And I just showed grit, drive, and determination, and I wanted it more than anyone, and I went for it. I was the smallest guy there, the skinniest guy probably, and I think I showed the other guys that you may be bigger build than me and taller than me, but I can keep up with you, and if not in certain exercise on pay company, be better than you. So yeah, pay company, yeah, you've got to work as a team, but ultimately you are there for yourself. You got to show the pay company staff that, yeah, you can work as a team, but you're not going to hold back your potential, because that could determine whether you pass or not. So you kind of stuck in the middle, basically doing it for yourself, but also working as a team. But it's tough. I'm not going to say pay company was easy. It wasn't easy. I didn't fail any events, and I passed it first time. Some people are unfortunate, unable to do that, whether they get an injury or etc. But it was like life or death for me. I think if I failed it first time, I don't think I could have ever attempted it again. I wanted to pass it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you obviously were attracted, as we've already covered, by the war films and stuff like that. You had a great childhood. There was no trauma there. You didn't grow up with any, hatred of anything or anybody, by the sounds of it. So, when did the realization hit that, you were actually training, yes, to be a paratrooper, but you're also being trained to kill?
But you always know that in the back of your mind that you may face a situation in your military career where it's kill or be killed, and you got to make sure that you've taken the correct procedures, that you're in the right. And it's crazy because the vultures that hang around the military, and we've seen it on the media during during Iraq and all the incidents that the media lied about what British troops were doing there and abusing prisoners and stuff. in the military, you have a way of doing things, and to the normal civilian might look a bit out of the ordinary, but in our way of life, it's not. This is what we've got to do to ensure you go to sleep and have a nice, happy life. We've got to go through all the sacrifices. Yeah, a lot of people can turn around and say, well, we shouldn't have gone to Iraq, but at the end of the day, you don't join the army to not go to a war zone. Any army personnel turns around and says, well, I didn't join the army to go to war. What the hell did you join it for? To make tea and biscuit, to make cups of tea? I don't think so. That is your bread and butter, to be a soldier and have to go to war. Obviously, war's nasty. It's not nice. People die. We understand that. But when you sign on the dotted line, you know what you're signing for.
So you pass out, proud moment for you and for your family. What's the next step? What's your first deployment?
I was in battalion over a month or so, and then obviously it was like a ghost town because everyone was doing pre-deployment training for Northern Ireland. So we're kind of a new guy. I was very apprehensive. I was shitting myself basically. I was kind of just wondering what the hell was going on. It was very bustly, and people were just caked in shite because they'd been on exercise for about 3 weeks. It was very nerve-wracking, I'd say the least. Seeing these guys cut round in their military uniform with their berets, just coming off exercise, looking rugged, looking like soldiers, real soldiers, something that if you were an opposition fighting force, you'd be scared of. Mm-hmm. And I was one of those guys, but I was also scared because I was a new bloke. Where I went on a little bit of leave, so I celebrated my 19th birthday at home, and then went to Northern Ireland in March. And halfway through Northern Ireland, I went to Bryce Norton, done my parachute training, so I got my wings halfway through, and then went back to Northern Ireland, finished my tour, and there we go. Been in battalion 2 minutes, and I've got a tour under my belt.
What was it like? What was that part of it like? I mean, the actual wings section is a big part. It's another proud step being in the parachute regiment. It's what makes you different. Being able to jump out of a plane and land and and then go on and carry out your mission. Had you ever done that before? First of all, had you ever jumped out of a plane before?
No, I've never jumped out of an airplane in my entire life, and there wasn't, when we were at Bryce Norton doing parachute training, I didn't think at the time, and there was no like stick basically of certain people in certain positions. It was just free for all, get on the plane. Well, I got on the plane last, didn't I? Thinking, I've got time to see what people are doing, jumping out. Well, no, I was the first out of the door. So I'm stood at the first man out the door of the Hercules there, and I'm seeing all the ground and road go past us on at Bryce Norton, and honestly, what a feeling it is. I wasn't scared. I felt like I was on top of the world, and it was a real good achievement, because you can go through parachute regiment training at Carrick. If you can't jump out of an airplane, that's you. You can't be a paratrooper, basically. Simple. So all that hard work, if you can't, at the end of the day, jump out of an airplane, it's been a waste of time. It's like pay company. Anyone can do pay company. It's a fitness test week. Obviously, not everyone can pass it, but to get the airborne wings, you've got to pass pay company. So you could go through pay company, pass it, go to jump out of an airplane, and can't jump out of an airplane. So you've just wasted all that effort doing pay company if you can't jump out of it. So I've met loads of paratroopers in my time who do not like jumping, but have to do it because, well, at the end of the day, they're a paratrooper. They may jump out with their eyes closed, but their eyes are open when it comes to land.
Yeah. Great stuff. So Northern Ireland, was that a nice deployment to get? I mean, obviously back in the day, Northern Ireland would have been a horrendous place to go for anyone, you know. I mean, during the Troubles and, you know, a lot going on. But was it a lot easier when you were out there?
It was definitely a lot easier to the stories that I've heard, and we all know of the Troubles, etc., in the 80s and 90s, and being part of the 1st Battalion of the Paratrooper Regiment, were always kind of welcomed in Northern Ireland, as you can imagine, with obviously the involvement with Sunday Bloody Sunday. But, you know, it was relaxed, but you still have to do your job. You still got to make sure you're not too complacent, because that's when things can go horribly wrong. Northern Ireland, it was relaxed. It was just crap weather for nearly 6 months. Mm-hmm. That's Northern Ireland for you. But it was for a new guy in battalion, it was an eye opener, to say the least.
The good thing is about being brought up in the Northeast, you would have been ready for that weather in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, definitely.
What was next after Northern Ireland then?
Obviously a few years just going through the transition role of being part of 16 Air Assault Brigade to then working under the Special Forces Support Group. So in our battalion, so to speak, it's predominantly Parachute Regiment, and you've got elements of the Royal Marines and RAF Regiment, and we're built up of the Special Forces Support Group. So we go on operations with the UK Special Forces, and potentially while on operations could have certain missions potentially with American opposition, like maybe Delta Force, the US Marines, or a regiment which is kind of what we kind of mirror, the American infantry units and all that. So it's good, you know, being out in Iraq and seeing different American soldiers, and potentially you could be going on an operation, a joint operation with them. Who knows? But yeah, it was good being a part of that group. You're doing something completely different to what normal green role soldiers would do. So yeah, obviously I never got chosen to go on operations with, say, the Rangers or anything like that, but a few of the guys did. So that was good experience for them.
Yeah. I mean, did you see any conflict, Nick, in your time?
In Afghanistan, I was kind of a bit back from some of the other guys, but you could hear it all over the radio. You can see the smoke going off in compounds, and you can hear the sound of rifles going off, machine guns going off. You can see on the high ground the SF guns going off, and you're trying to look through the binoculars to find out where these Al-Qaeda, Taliban enemy is, and unless you're literally in these compounds, you physically can hardly see them. They are very sneaky at what they do, and their way of dealing with us is shoot and scoot. So they'll just blat off nearly a full magazine and hope for the best that one of those rounds hits a British or an Allied soldier, so to speak. But I had my own incident in Afghanistan. I was top gunner in a Land Rover, Wimmick, which is just basically a Land Rover with light armour on, and we went to investigate people watching us. We call them dickers, and it goes back to, say, Northern Ireland as well. People would watch to see what we're doing and then pass information on to the enemy. So we went to investigate them, and we just came back to where we were parked, and then there was a pressure plate mine, and it went up through the engine block, and just, yes, we were unscathed, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And it's not like the movies where you'll see the mine and you've got time to get behind a rock or jump out of the way. That doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. It just literally, we drove, parked, boom, like that. It happens that quick. You haven't got time to do anything. And it is nervy and a bit scary as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't automatically hit you straight after the event either, does it? I mean, we look, and we talk about it more and more now because men tend not to talk about their feelings and things like that. But PTSD is such a big thing, from ex-servicemen. It's something that was almost dismissed, and it's something that a lot of ex-servicemen suffer from through trauma from those kind of experiences, whether it's seeing someone shot or being involved in a landmine incident or a vehicle, getting something exploding under a vehicle.
Oh yes, definitely. There's always the after effects. I remember that after dusting myself down, making sure I was not injured in any way. I remember hearing the guys coming up with the metal detectors, and it's like it is what you see in the movies where everything slows down and the voices are a bit distorted and stuff like that, and they were shouting. And then I got the shaky leg trying to get out of the vehicle. I was just a little bit nervous. I've never experienced this in my entire life, and I'm quite lucky to come out unscathed because a lot of stories you've had and heard about where people have been injured, lost limbs, and obviously died. It is nervy, and you can't not think you're invincible. They say everyone in the army's got a bullet or a mine with their name on. It's just if that ever happens. But like I say, we're very lucky to not get injured, and I don't have nightmares or anything like that. Obviously, I'm probably lucky. I know a lot of people have and do go through mental trauma from their time in the military, and my heart goes out to them, and I hope they can seek help and carry on with a day-to-day life without their military career affecting them.
Was Afghanistan the most testing time for you in the paras?
Yes. Carrying that weight in that heat, I was downright disgusting. You've got to be on a high level of mental and physical robustness to do that for hours as well. And it's and being in the desert, not in your compound at your fob or military base, but living in the desert for like a few weeks at a time, that's really testing as well. But you've got to do what you've got to do, and you do the necessary training for these situations. And if you didn't do the training, then you wouldn't be able to survive in these hostile environments.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So, coming to something which obviously most people will probably remember you for, and that is when you came to the national news attention as part of something that was called the Chennai Six. You were with 5 other former squaddies who were arrested and then jailed in India after defending ships from pirates. Tell us how your life changed and how you came to be essentially out there doing that job.
Did me time in the army, and quite a few people that I got on with in the army, they had left and gone into, say, private security roles, whether it be doing close protection, say in UK or hostile environments. And a mate of mine put me in the way of, do you fancy doing maritime security and working on ships? And I thought, well, it's not something that I'd normally do. Like, I prefer to be on land. And he was like, oh, it's to stop Somali pirates hijacking vessels, and it's you go into different countries and the money's good. And I thought, why not? So I went and done my courses, got me ticks in the boxes, and went and done maritime security. Obviously, I was qualified to do land-based security as well. So spending a lot of money doing these courses, you want to get your money back. So maritime was the quickest way of getting that, and going on doing jobs, going on these big vessels, whether it be bulk carriers, container ships, you name it, meeting different nationalities on the vessels, different multinational crews, or say a Filipino crew, and like the officers could be, you know, just all Ukraine, and it varies from ship to ship, but they were always very grateful that you were on board, because they knew if we weren't on board, they have a chance when sailing through the high risk area, they could be hijacked by Somali pirates.
Yeah, and I mean, you were on a boat. I think it was a US owned boat. I think MV Seaman, Guard Ohio, and the authorities, the Indian Coast Guard, accused you of straying into their waters, didn't they?
Yes. So we were on our Klein vessel going from Muscat to Sri Lanka, and in a couple of days we got an email, and we were told to board our Holden supply vessel that is owned by our company that we worked for. It's a way of saving money, basically. So obviously we handed our kit and equipment back to the main security guy, the tactical deployment officer, and then we kind of ceased operations, and we were going off the coast of India, so we could have liaisons with our agent to procure fuel and provisions. And in maritime law, if there's, say, an emergency, you can go to a neighbouring country. And there was a cyclone, and it was making the sea state really bad, and we're only a little vessel, so there could have been potential issues there. So we took refuge in India, but the next few days you just couldn't write what was going to happen. And I remember, like, it happened yesterday. 1 minute I'm doing my job, next minute I'm in an Indian prison having my life taken away from us, and it's just really nerve-wracking because you've got literally no control of what's going on whatsoever.
I mean, it's a strange situation to be in, and I've heard some horror stories from so many countries, and you know, India and Mumbai in particular, where, you know, the chief police officer who arrests you turns out to be the judge as well. You know, and they rush these things through to get you locked up, and it seems like you were a victim of a similar kind of thing, you know, across there. And, you know, I mean, what was there anybody who spoke the language amongst amongst the lads who you were with? I think there was 6 of you in total.
Yeah, well, there was 35 people on that vessel. There was 12 Indians. Fortunately, one of the Indians was from Tamil Nadu, so he could speak the language. So he was kind of being an interpreter as well, because our agent was nowhere to be seen. The last time we saw our agent, he was laughing and joking with the police when they were counting the weapons and ammunition to make sure they were correct. But they turned around and said the weapons were illegal. And I'm thinking, wait, the paperwork states otherwise. And funny enough, they were in Mumbai a month previously to our arrest. So how can they be legally 1 minute there, next minute illegally? But everything that was kind of led up, there was a reason behind it. Obviously, at that time, everything's all bustly and in the air, and you haven't got a good thought process at that moment, because all you can think about is what the hell's happening, how's my family taking this. But once kind of things kind of die down a bit, you know, you've got 35 men all thrown into a prison. 6 British, 14 Estonian, 3 Ukrainians and 12 Indians. and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy because you haven't got a clue what's going on. No one's giving you information. There's no one like our agent trying to act like an agent and find out what's going on, why we've been arrested. It was just hell, pandemonium. It was all done for the media. There was something bigger than what we knew of at the time. And later, when we find out things, it was because we've been made an example of. Because back in January 2012, 2 Italian Marines off the coast of Kerala, which is on the southwest coast of India, accidentally murdered 2 Indian fishermen. Mind, they were working for their country as Italian Marines doing anti-piracy. We're working as private contractors, so they've got their country to back them up if the shit hits the fan. We have no one, and we hadn't done anything, but they couldn't arrest them, put them in prison. So we're the fallout guys.
Yeah.
Even though we've not murdered anyone, you've more or less treated us in the way that we've murdered someone, basically. It was a massive political setup to be made an example of, and it robbed me and the other guys 4 years of their life.
Tell us what it was like in the prison. What was it like inside, the cell?
I've actually been in 3 different prisons. Didn't really see much of the first prison as such, but if we spent the majority there, we probably would have been carted out. It was built up during British rule, so they were quite happy when they found out British people coming for a few days stay. But the main 2 prisons up in Chennai itself, Central Prison Puzzle to the remand prison, such a vast prison, it held over a few thousand people and some more. So it was even going beyond its capability of housing individuals. We, from the entrance and the jailer's office, our compound was like nearly a mile walk. So we're having to walk past all the local Indians, getting abuse thrown at us, stones thrown at us. We were treated like absolute criminals because they would have read in their newspaper that apparently we were going to be doing a Mumbai-style attack on the nuclear power plant. We were selling weapons to fit. Their media portrayed us as near enough terrorists, which is quite ironic when I'm here to protect people from terrorism, and now I'm getting portrayed as one. We shared a compound with different cells with like Nigerian drug dealers, Iranian drug dealers, dodgy Russian people with money, and a few Sri Lankan Tamil tigers. But you keep people at arm's length. You know, you're gonna chat to people, find out what the crack is, and see what prison life is. Because at first you're like newbies in the prison, and you need to know how to get around things a lot easier. So you're gonna interact with other prisoners, because it doesn't matter what you say, they'll have read it in the paper, so they know. And it was funny when some of the Nigerians were like, "Can you get us weapons?" I'm like, "What do you mean, can you get us weapons? Well, you're selling weapons, aren't you?" So I went, "No, that's just the media chatting crap." You know what I mean? But it was funny, man. Horrible, bleak conditions. Disgusting.
What was the food like?
Food in the first prison was woeful. We lost quite a substantial amount of weight across the guys. I remember one of the Estonians, he's a thin-built guy. Anyways, when he came out of that prison after 6 months, he looked anorexic. He looked like something that you'd seen pictures in Auschwitz. You could see his bones, everything. He was unhealthy. We were all unhealthy. I lost 10 kilograms in a extreme diet, and it was unhealthy. We all kind of contracted D&V, where it was absolutely disgusting. There was rats, the odd snake, dodgy looking spiders. The food, they would give us like potatoes, cabbage, onions, tomatoes. At first chicken necks and wings, and then we kind of progressed to chicken thighs, because how the hell are you supposed to eat chicken wings and necks? Mine were, in that prison, we were cooking for 23, so we're not chefs, we're not like your Gordon Ramsays who cater for mass people. So we probably gave ourselves bloody food poisoning more than once. But trying to, for what we were given, to try and make that a meal to feed 23 people was quite daunting, because sometimes the vegetables were rotten, sometimes there wasn't enough, and we'll be kicking off saying, how are we supposed to feed? This is only our only meal of the day. How are we supposed to eat? So it was a big challenge, because we chose not to eat the local food, because I don't want to be eating rice and dal every day. And it wasn't even dal. It was like more of a red, spicy, chillied, oily looking liquid just poured on rice. It was absolutely revolting. And I would been shitting through an eye of a needle every time I ate it. But we managed. There was a prison shop, so would try and buy some porridge just to fill up a bit, and biscuits. Our diet was awful, especially when I'm really into me bodybuilding and all that. I went into the prison in decent nick, and I come out a total different guy and withdrawn looking, but at least I was still alive and fairly healthy.
Obviously being in the military, there's a discipline that you need, you have a routine. Did you find that part of it easy? Did you get yourself into a routine in prison?
Yeah, definitely. My military training played such a big role in my survival in prison life, because I'm not saying that I didn't go into a corner and cry for my family. I'm not saying that at all, but someone who isn't normally able to forward think and on their feet into a hostile environment, like being in the military, where trained to think like that and look at the dangers, assess the situation. Normal people don't do that. They'll just go and crumble in the corner. So the first thing was like, right, where am I going to sleep? Right, I'm going to sleep there. I'm going to try and make it as comfortable as I can. Using my trainers and a t-shirt or something as a pillow, just folding it up and getting yourself into a routine. So get up in the morning, try and have some sort of breakfast. Majority was chapatis and 2 boiled eggs for breakfast that the prison gave, which was quite delightful, but then it's better than nothing. And then just walk around the compound. The Nigerians in the first prison had a little gym set up, so just cracked on a bit with that. But a lot of the time it was just, you were just missing your family, so there wasn't a lot to do in the first prison compared to when we had been convicted. It was a total different kind of way of life, prison.
I mean, it was a 4-year ordeal, and I mean, you wouldn't know where to start. Anybody watching this wouldn't know where to start. Taken away from your everyday normal existence, and then suddenly thrown into such a world that you're describing. You mentioned your family. Did you have communication with them? And obviously, the family did play such a huge part. I mean, I remember seeing your sister. Almost it almost felt at times single-handedly trying to get you and the rest of the guys, back home.
In the first prison, communication with my family came only via the embassy. So they would come and visit us nearly every fortnight, and bring letters. There was no post. We couldn't do any postal. Like parcels, very limited. Communication-wise, well, we're convicted in the October. My sister came out and saw us in the March, and then we got bail in the April. So obviously spending my first Christmas and New Year and my birthday in a prison, and just seeing my family, just my sister, when she came out to see us the first time. And obviously hearing about what happened to my mum before Christmas with having a double aneurysm, kind of ripped me to bits inside. So communication was key, and I had to wait till the embassy come in. So there was times where nothing happened for about 3 months on the case side. So when you're locked up in a prison with no charges and you're scratching your head thinking, is someone going to tell us what's going on here? That was a real low point. Out of the 6 months that we were in prison the first time, I think it was about 3 months, we heard nothing from our legal team. We even had the jailer come up and say, right, you've getting bail. You're now to leave prison. And we're like, what? So we packed all our gear up, went down to the main gate, and the superintendent's going, what are you doing? That stupid bellend said we're getting bail. He went, no. And the jailer's just stood there. I'm thinking, he's just lied. So he's just basically getting 23 foreigners all worked up saying we're getting bail, and it was just a hoax. So when we actually got bail, we went, nah, we're not believing it. Well, we literally got chucked out of that prison. The superintendent had to come up to our compound and say, will you get out of my prison? The embassy's here. Get out of my prison, you've got bail. But mental, absolute, mucking with your head, that's enough to send someone around the bend. You've not got your life in your hands, and some they're just lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you comprehend that?
What did it feel like, once the ordeal, did eventually come to an end, and you were taken by the British Deputy of the High Commission to the 4-star hotel in the city? I mean, did you believe it then, or were you still looking over your shoulder, waiting for your collar get felt and getting dragged back in?
Well, when we got bail and we went to the hotel and all that, it was great feeling, because I'm thinking, we've done nothing wrong anyways. Why should we have been in prison? I know mistakes can happen. That's just, you've getting a bit of prison time out of work. Just let we be on my way. So we had to sign bail twice a day for 3 months, and then the case was quashed in July 2014. So I'm technically now a free man. In Indian law, it states the police have 90 days to appeal. I don't have to remain in the country. And we're showing these letters from our legal team to our British government. We had a meeting in the embassy. You had people come from New Delhi, and we're saying, get us out of this country now. And the British government, and this is the only time I'll ever have a go at the British government on how things was handled, because personally they've done nothing bad to me. But as a whole, this is when they really could have made a difference, and they didn't. They turned around and said, we will see if the police appeal or not. I'm thinking, so you're just going to let us fend for ourselves for another 3 months? That's 3 months my family have got to go into financial burden just to keep a roof over my head in a hostel, because we weren't in this 5-star hotel now. The company went, well, I can't maintain that, you're on your own now. So I'm having to live off handouts, charity money, my family's money, just to stay in a hostel for how long. And then on day 88, so on day 90, if they hadn't appealed, that's it, it's game over. Get me a plane ticket and I'm away. And then on day 88, your bags is packed. And then on day 88, the sucker blow comes and they go, right, they've put their appeal into the Supreme Court. And you just, it feels like someone just ran up to you and kicked you between the legs. You feel violently sick. You've just been that close to it over, to go home to your family, and they've just taken it away from you.
So what happened next, Nick?
Well, obviously they appealed. We went up to the Supreme Court after so many months. You know, I spent from the first time being in India, spent like 6 months in prison, and then nearly a year and a half out of prison, basically as a free man, causing a massive financial burden on my family for staying in India, a place that with a man with no charges should never be. He should be back home with his loved ones. And the British government weren't assisting in any way, shape or form, and it was down to charities, etc., to help me survive, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart. Obviously, we went up to Supreme Court, not us personally, but our legal team, and we've got the prosecution saying one thing. We became a split faction. So you got the Estonians and Ukrainians getting their legal team, and us British having our legal team. And in India, it's all about castes. So even though that you may be more qualified in a certain role than that person, if your family background is less than his, he is better than you. So their lawyer kind of stood up in court ahead of our lawyer, and the judge asked one question, and if he just answered and said what he had to say, it would have been over. But the judge goes, so why was the vessel there? All he had to turn around and say, the vessel was there for fuel and provisions, nothing more, and it would have been over, because the prosecution were like, well, they're up to no good. We're saying we're there for fuel and provisions. There's all the paperwork. There's all the evidence. They're saying it as well. There's 2 against 1. However, he turned around and went, I don't know why the ship was there. I'm just here to get these guys home because they were just passengers on the vessel. And our legal team's just gone, oh no, what you've done. So you've basically left the judge with 3 different answers. There's only one way to get round it. Let's have a trial. And we said to the British government on week 1, day 1, when they came to visit us in the prison, if this ever goes to trial, it'll be in the lion's den and we will go to prison. Obviously, that's us thinking at week 1, day 1 of the 4-year nightmare. So let's fast forward 2 and a bit year. That's reality. And that's what happens. It goes to trial. And a trial to make it look that we're going home. And then they just get their law and just boom. How can you abuse your own law is beyond me. Everyone on that prosecution team in the UK court of law would have been done for perjury. It was absolutely revolting. I didn't go to many of the attendances unless the judge required me, because we were in the trial and I was listening to our legal team doing the translation on the collector of evidence, and he turned around on the stand while getting cross-examined by our lawyers, and he turned around and said, well, if I'd seen the ballistics expert report, I wouldn't have put the charges on the men. So
yeah,
there we go. Can you pause it? Someone's just knocking at my door. All right. Sorry about this.
So yeah, back after that short break, and essentially, Nick, just tell us how how it all came. That your name was eventually cleared.
So basically, we got convicted after our trial. We spent a year doing our appeal process to the 5-year conviction that we got for weapons offences. we had the best legal team money could buy, and it was paid for by people's generous donations, because we had no pay. We couldn't afford our own lawyer. So down to the amazing people of the UK and other areas around other countries around the world for donating to our GoFund page to basically pay for our legal team made the difference, because we would be still languishing in prison today. But we went through our appeal process, and the judge was very reluctant on making a decision, basically breaching their own law, which is quite disgusting yet again. So the captain of our vessel got seriously ill with bone cancer, and basically he looked like a bag of bones walking around covered in skin. He wasn't in a healthy looking state. So our legal team put a case, like a red herring, so to speak, in the courts to try and get him out of prison to go to a private hospital to die, basically, for his family to come from the Ukraine to see him dying, so he didn't die in a prison. So that went through the lower court, passed to the High Court. We're still in the High Court waiting on a judgment on our appeal. And it went up to Supreme Court. And the grandest judge of all of India, Mr. Chief Justice himself, when hearing the captain's plea to go from prison to a private hospital to die, basically didn't even entertain that. He just turned around and obviously I can't quote him, but he basically said, "Why are you still in my country?" Well, our legal team jumped at the chance of this and went, "Well, Your Honour, we're still waiting on the appeal process 1 year on down at the High Court. What are you going to do about that?" And he just went, "You know what? I want a decision within 2 weeks." So he's ordered the High Court to, right, it's on like Donkey Kong within 2 weeks. We only had to wait 1 week. And we got the date 27th of November 2017, Judgment Day, a Monday. I remember hearing on the radio on the Sunday evening, they were playing rock ballads. The final countdown song came on. This might sound cheesy to a lot of people, but it came on that radio, and I stood up in that cell and I said to the guys, "Tomorrow it's over. We are going home." And you can understand people being apprehensive. I wish I wasn't so positive, because I feel like I was being selfish on myself, and it kind of later down the line kind of didn't help, but I'm focusing more on myself now. But yeah, when no one slept that night, the next day, everyone was just, some people were walking around like headless chickens. People were really nervous. I just went, "You know what? What's the point? I'm just going to crack on with what I'm doing, book reading, ... replying to letters sent to my family. And we built our own little Flintstone gym, so I was busy training. And then obviously the guys had been summoned down to the superintendent's office to speak to the lawyer. And surprise, surprise, out of like 40 odd cases, we were the last to be heard. And then I was busy training, and one of the guys came to the barred window and shouted. And you know, when someone's got that so mixed emotions, you don't know if they're about to burst out laughing or cry. It's a mixture of the both. And he went, "Dunny, Dunny, Dunny." I went, what? He went, "It's over, case acquitted." And I went, "See, I told you." And I thought, my heart's about to jump up my chest here. I was buzzing. And I thought, right, let's finish my workout. And I couldn't. My mind was going 100 million miles an hour. All I could think of is what it's going to be like on the UK soil of my family hearing the news. And you only need to Google to see the video of when my family get the good news. And then obviously no one slept that evening. And then the next day, obviously I was training again, walking around the compound, same guy being summoned to the superintendent's office, he's coming back into the compound. I went, what's the crack? He went, get your shit together, the embassy's coming at 11 o'clock. And I mean, it felt like someone had kneecapped us in a good way. My legs just went away from us. I'm now being told in basically less than 24 hours, the case is over. I'm now leaving prison. That's too much positivity that one man after 4 years can handle. And I felt like just breaking down and saying, is this real? Is this real? Is this really happening? And I always said, I'll never know and feel it's over till I land in Newcastle Airport. I always had that little slight bit of paranoia about us, that it's not over till I'm touched down Newcastle Airport. And being released out of prison, the embassy coming to get work, going to the embassy, ringing me sister. Well, she was on her way to India. She was on her way to Newcastle Airport to fly out to India to see us, to bring us home. But obviously she couldn't let me bring us home because she had to go a day early, because obviously to get me family set up for the airport. But even my sister wasn't aware of what was going to be like at the airport. She just thought it was going to be like, say, one or two local media and a few family, but it even surprised her what was waiting at Newcastle Airport for myself. And then obviously going through the visa department, going through getting all your paperwork, that was a bit of a rigmarole. It was the final throw of the dice for them to muck about and delay things. And we got there in the end. I got me ticket, going to the Chennai airport, getting on that plane, and then going to Dubai and having to stay in Dubai for 6 hours. I hadn't slept for nearly a week. I was running on fumes. I was thinking, please do not fall asleep and miss this flight. Please do not fall asleep. Anyone who's been to Dubai, you can get an internet signal. My phone couldn't. It was like someone had told their internet providers, do not let Nick Dunn connect. He cannot find out what is going on. And I literally was sat there twiddling my thumbs for 6 hours drinking coffee in Dubai airport. I was to take away. I couldn't communicate with no one. I had no SIM card. I couldn't get connected to Wi-Fi. I was literally in airport by myself. And then finally getting to board that plane. There was a few people on that plane to Newcastle from Dubai who knew and recognised us, but when you're looking around and your eyes connect, they would give a little thumbs up or something like that. But then no one approached me because they knew what it signified. I thank Emirates on how they dealt with it. I was given my own little trolley dolly, so if I had any problems, she literally had to come to my needs. And I really thank Emirates on making my flight the most enjoyable flight I've ever had in my entire life.
It's an amazing story, and you've turned that into a book, a fantastic book. The title is Surviving Hell. Couldn't think of a better title. No crime, no justice, no surrender. Forward by Damian Lewis, who calls it a truly remarkable book. It obviously covers your time, living a nightmare as one of the wrongly convicted Chennai Six. And, that book's available on Amazon. Definitely worth a read, definitely worth spending a few quid, folks, and getting that. I will stick a link up to the Amazon version. Just tell us, just how the book came about, and did you find the writing process, therapeutic in getting your story down?
I was always receiving little, not little hints and stuff like that from people who were writing to us in prison saying, Nick, have you ever thought about writing your memoirs down? You do know when this is finally over, people would want to know your story. And I just kind of didn't brush it to one side or anything like that. I just kind of thought, well, where do I begin? It's 4 years of an absolute madness of events. How can I put that into context? I can't do this alone. And obviously, when being back in the UK, people would recognise us, stop us, say welcome home and this and the other. And quite a lot of people always went, Nick, have you ever thought about writing a book? This would be a great read. And the more and more people kept on saying that, I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to lose here. I came home with nothing. I'm owed 6-figure sum in wages alone. I've received no compensation. I've gone through a negative part of my life. Let's try and do something positive. What have I got to lose? Nothing. What have I got to gain? Who knows? Everything, hopefully. Time will tell. But it's not easy. Anyone who says getting a book published is easy, it's not. It's definitely not. Writing a book, anyone can write a book, I suppose. But it's getting it in the chapters, getting it the right way of wording things, keeping the reader fixated in your book, your survival. And the guy who helped me do that, I think he's just nailed it on the head. He's basically got the readers gripped. And that's what a lot of people are now telling me, Nick, I'm picking your book up and I can't put it down. And it's a proud moment, a real proud moment for me. And it was very difficult going through all of the upsetting stuff again. But it was really enjoyable going through it because it was like a bit of closure. It was shutting one door of a bit of negativity and creating new potential opportunities, positivity. I've came and get to know some fantastic people, which I would never have met if I didn't go through 4 years of hell. So in every negative, there's always a positive. And if you have that mindset, you'll achieve wonders, I think, in life.
It's a great mindset to have, and you know, as I say, the book is a great read, well worth you know, getting it on Kindle, buying a hard copy, however you want to do it, definitely well worth a read. And I would imagine there would be hope that at some point it gets picked up for dramatization as well, Nick, because you know it's a fascinating story.
I have, obviously, before lockdown, I have heard from my agent that there has been people sniffing around in that way, but obviously nothing's concrete. And obviously we've gone through the whole coronavirus pandemic, so things are starting to now ease, and who knows what the future may lie. Like I say, quite a few people, when they've read my book, have said, Nick, I know it's real. I know it's happened, but it doesn't feel real. It feels like something else. Mm-hmm. Has people been in touch with you to make like a film or anything like that? And I've gone, well, that would be amazing if that was ever to happen, but I'm not going to get too excited about it, and I'm keeping my feet well and firmly on the ground. And hey, if there's people out there who are interested in doing something like that, please, by all means, get in touch with myself or my agent, Philip Patterson, and we can, you know, talk about things in a more in-depth conversation. But I'm just enjoying the moment and doing these podcasts to help promote my book and share my experience. And obviously, I hope I've achieved that. And if anything more progressive comes from it, then, like I say, it'll be a fantastic achievement and a very proud moment. Like I say, there's always a positivity in a negativity.
Last question, Nick. Have you managed to turn your life around? Do you think that you've you've now, you know, found peace within yourself and you can move on and live the rest of your life?
Yes and no. That is a good question. There is still times where I really hit a low point, and that's all my military career, 4 years of hell, you know, going through a horrible breakup last year. I have me moments where I feel sick of my life, and I'm being honest there, and I dust myself down. I've got a great family. I've got great friends as well, and I hope they can see the signs, because I may turn around and say I'm fine, but it's those who will say, Nick, you're not fine, you need help. And I am doing really well. I'm more emotional nowadays, which is quite funny being an ex-paratrooper, when paratroopers are these steely-eyed killing machine with no emotions, and now I'm an absolute total opposite. I am so emotional, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I think my life now, I've achieved something. I feel happy. I feel like I've gone through a bad part of my life, and I'm trying to do something good for the future. And we all go through challenges in our life. It's how we deal with them.
It's a great place to finish it. And I'm sure once, you know, we get out of these strange times that, you know, you should get yourself on the circuit, get out there with your book. And, you know, I think you'd be a great example of kids going into schools and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll be able to help you, put you in touch with the right kind of people to be able to help, you know, you and your agent, you know, get on that path. Because I think it's an inspirational story. It's one which I think people will have enjoyed tonight or today, whenever they've watched it. And, you know, best of luck with the book. As I say, Survive in Hell, available on Amazon, and you know, Nick is available on Facebook, so I'm sure, you know, you won't mind direct approaches. He's already said there, if anyone's interested in making a film, give him a shout. But Nick Dunn, for now, best of luck, mate, and thanks very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much.